welcome back to the Results Podcast. It's great to be back with you. My name's Steve Mills, and welcome, and thank you for your interest. Again today, I've got another, it's a recording. It's of my Raise Your Game CD program. You may recall me saying, if you watched my last podcast, that a little while ago I recorded this program. It's a 12 CD program, and I've been selling it for years, sold thousands of copies for about £300 a go, and obviously it's on CD, so it's now coming to the end of its sort of lifetime, as it were. CDs weren't really around for very long, were they? Now obviously everything online, and so I'm taking this opportunity to really allow the readers or the listeners to my podcast an opportunity to benefit from some of the ideas that I shared on the Raise Your Game program. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I play you the next CD in the Raise Your Game program. Thank you ever so much for listening, and enjoy.
Hello and welcome again to this month's Raise Your Game program. The program all about developing your business, improving yourself and getting more sales. My first question for you concerns last month's CD. What did you do as a result of it? Do you know what your business will look like when it's finally done? Did you spend time working on the vision side of the business so that you've got a clear understanding of where you want your business to go, what you want it to do, and how you want to perceive your business when it's finally done? So that really is the time when you come to sell it or move on yourself. The next thing we spoke about was networking. You know, how effective are you at networking? Have you used some of the skills? Have you attended any networking events? You know, do you yet have a strategy for networking? How many events are you going to attend? How many people do you want to touch at each event? In other words, to network with. How many sales are you looking to create from the whole of your networking? The third thing we spoke about was email marketing. Again, a massive opportunity. If you've not yet used it, please take the time and give this a go. You need to look at the various software, and you need to do it in a very professional manner. And lastly, we spoke about criteria elicitation. We spoke about how to define the criteria of your potential clients, their buying criteria, and get a good understanding of what makes them tick, what makes them actually buy your services, so that you could then focus on it. So, I really hope you took that on board, you did something with it, you used it, and it helped to start to raise your game and improve your business. Because I've got a message for you that I think is really important at this point, and that is that education is a waste of time. Now you may think, well, what do you mean, Steve? And what I mean is that if you don't take action, education coupled with action is what makes a difference. And the question is, what type of action do you need to take? Well, a little bit of action is going to produce what? It's going to produce a little result. If you take a reasonable amount of action, you're going to do okay. But really what you need to do, in my opinion, is to take massive action. Recently, I had a client who said, we're going to try doing some direct mail. We're going to send some letters out to various people, and we're going to see how it goes. I went back there several weeks later and said to them, how did the direct mail campaign go? They said, it didn't really work. It was a waste of time. I said, sorry to hear that. What did you do? How many letters did you send out? They said, well, we sent 36 out. Now, based on the fact that, if you send a direct mail campaign out, if you get, 1 or 2%, you're doing really, really well. A test like that is not really worthwhile. And I know you may think, well, that's, pretty obvious, Steve. But my point being, the more action you take, the more rewards you get. I speak often at my sales training courses, and I'll say, do you want to know how to double sales? It's really easy. Make twice as many calls. If you make twice as many calls, you're going to get twice as many inquiries. You're going to get twice as many leads. And hopefully you're going to convert twice as many. So, it's not rocket science, this, but it actually makes a difference. So whatever you do at the moment, just try and do more. If you do more marketing, you spend more time and effort on your website, you spend more time making calls, you spend more time sending out email campaigns, or whatever it is you're going to do, if you do more of it, you will get more results. Now, you can obviously improve that, as I mentioned, through education, becoming more effective, becoming better at networking, becoming better at writing really good copy, becoming better at search engine optimization, making sure that your business constantly improves. But the simple and easy way to improve your business is to do more, is to take what I call massive, consistent action towards your goal. So what I'm asking you to do at this point is to upgrade, to raise your game, to improve yourself, to improve your knowledge, but more importantly, to improve the amount of action that you're going to take to develop your business. So again, this month is divided into 4 key sections. We're going to look in a moment at strategy. We're then going to cover online and offline marketing, and the final section being sales. So I'm going to kick off this month, as I did last month, talking about strategy, the strategy of the business. And I've got today a very important question for you. What is your niche market? What do I mean? Your niche market. A lot of people talk about the market. They'll say, well, our target market is businesses within the Thames Valley, as an example. But does that mean all businesses? Are all businesses equally qualified to deal with your business? Would everybody be a likely candidate? They may be, that you could serve anybody within, your catchment area, and your business would be appropriate for those people. But the big problem is, particularly in a small business, is you've not got the budget to market to everybody. You can't send a direct mail campaign out to everybody in Berkshire, as an example. There's just too many people. There are too many businesses. So the key here is, who are you going to send your marketing message to? What is your niche market? You may think, well, we've not really got one, Steve, at the moment. We market to a whole variety of different businesses, and that's what we do. We have services, and we have different industries, different size businesses. We have private sector, public sector, corporate businesses and small businesses. And that's great. And I'm not suggesting that you should stop in any of those niches. What I am suggesting is to think about what is the best possible use of your marketing pounds, time and effort. So maybe if you look back at your current clients and you say, right, well, we've got 100 clients, and we know that we've got a significant amount of our income comes from a small proportion of our clients. I'm sure you've all heard of the 80-20 rule, and that is that 80% of your income comes from 20% of your clients, and so on and so forth. And I think this is the same with niching. So the question is, who are your best clients? Why position yourself as a niche business? Well, let me ask you another very important question. Would you rather buy a business who was a specialist in your industry or just a general practitioner? For example, if I ran let's say a business providing sports services, I was a leisure-based business, and an accountant came to me and said, we specialize in the leisure industry. We work with all these companies within leisure. This really is the industry that we know. and we are sure that we can do a fantastic job for you. If I said, as a marketing company, look, we specialize in your industry, we work with companies like yours, we've helped them to double, triple and quadruple the size of their business over the last few years, would that possibly be a factor in making you decide, or would you rather just have someone who works in a whole variety of other industries? Now, please be clear here, I'm not suggesting that you should not work in all the industries that you work in at the moment. What I am suggesting is, let's think about a target industry. Let's go for that industry. Let's try niching. And, please be aware also that you're not going to get it right the first time. You try a particular industry, you offer a service to that industry, and then you test a different service to a different industry, and so on and so forth, until you find what works best. So, simple example, you decide to undertake some direct marketing, direct letters, emails, whatever it is. And you decide that you're going to go for the IT industry, as an example. And you send out 2,000 letters, and you know that as a result of that, that produces 20 inquiries. You then think, right, okay, let's test a different approach. And this time, instead of going for IT, you're going to try technology-based businesses. And you send out your 2,000 letters, and that produces 15 responses. You then say, right, okay, I'm going to try professional services, and I'm going to market to solicitors. You send out the same 2,000, and that produces 45 responses. You've just done 3 really good tests to decide which niche may be worth trying. And that way you can get a much better response. You get over 100% increase just by testing different niche markets. And that is the power of niching. It's a really important thing for you to do. And I'd like you to think about how you're going to niche your business, how you're going to become an expert in your particular field, in a particular industry. So I'd now like to talk to you about, again, another massively expanding area of marketing, and that is social networking. We all hear about social networking websites, whether it's Facebook or Refer On, LinkedIn, and all the, not quite hundreds, but certainly 20, 30, 40 different social networking sites that many businesses are involved in. The question is it worthwhile? Does it actually work? Well, the truth is, for most businesses, I'd say, well, yes, maybe. They may do okay, a little bit like I was talking about at the beginning of this recording. Most businesses set themselves up on a social networking website, and then they don't do very much. They don't take action. They don't do anything with it. So the question is, right, what should I do? How could you win business from social networking? Well, the first thing you need to do is obviously to sign up and get yourself a presence on the sites, whether it's Facebook, Refer On, LinkedIn, etc., etc. There's a whole variety of different social networking sites, and I strongly suggest you, use Google, go on there, type in social networking sites, or maybe try social networking business sites. That might also be a useful search for you. And then take a look. And, you need to make a decision dependent on your industry, your business, which sites are right for you. Like all things, the more sites you're on, the more chance you've got of actually getting results. So, dependent on your time and your commitment to this, then you need to make a business decision for yourself. The great news about this is, as far as a marketing budget's concerned, it's not going to cost a great deal. There are a few sites where you have to pay a little bit to be a member. For example, eCademy. eCademy is a great site for anybody who deals with business to business. And whilst you can sign up and have a free membership, they also have a membership that I think costs about £10 a month. I think you call it a power networker or something like that. But that gives you access to a variety of different marketing strategies within the website itself. It allows you to, for example, use a section called marketing, which basically you can go ahead and market your services. You can tell people about what you do. You can try and sell things, etc., etc. There's also a blog on there where you can put useful information and hopefully with links to your website. So, there's a whole variety of things that you can do on eCademy. But obviously, eCademy is not the be-all and end-all, and it's a matter of trying to test different websites and different social networking opportunities. So decide how many you're going to commit to and then commit to it. What do I mean? Well, what I mean is you're going to then work that site. You're not just going to set up a profile on there, put your details up there, and then sit back and wait for the inquiries to come in. Because, to be honest, they probably won't. What you need to do is to use the social networking sites on a regular basis to update information. So in order of preference, the first thing to do is to put your profile up there. And please put as much information as you possibly can on there. You don't want it half filled. You really do want a picture. I really believe that you need a picture of yourself on there. And again, get that picture professionally produced. There's nothing worse than a poor picture to produce poor results. You're a professional person. You're a professional business. You want to look good. And people judge you by your picture, rightly or wrongly. So make sure you're groomed well. You've got, nice shirt on or blouse, depending whether you're a man or a woman. And the picture is professionally done. Get it professionally done by a professional photographer. You then need to think about relationships. Once you've got your profile up there and it's fully complete and you look good, which is essentially your web page, you then need to think about forming relationships. You need to link to people. So the question is who you're going to link to. Well, clearly anybody that who is on that particular social networking site, you need to link to them. And then we need to build. It's just like really, going to a networking event. You go into a networking event, there's, 50 people in the room. What do? You go up to people and you start talking. You form relationships. It's exactly the same, but this time online. So we've got to do that using email, using links, finding who's actually on the site, finding out businesses who are in maybe the niche industry that you're wanting to target, and build those relationships. So, dependent on the site, dependent on the amount of time, I strongly suggest you set a target for it. If you go on, Facebook and think, right, okay, my aim is to get 50 new relationships every month. So I'm looking at roughly 2 a day. So I need to spend maybe, half an hour or an hour once every 2 or 3 days working on my social networking marketing strategy. Once you've got the relationships, or should I say at the same time as you're getting the relationships, you need to add additional information. So that could be an article about something. It could be a piece of editorial. It could be information about something that you're doing. It could be an answer to a question that someone else has posed. That's a great way of becoming an expert in something. A lot of social networking sites have a place where people can ask questions of other people. And that's a great opportunity if you've got expertise in that to answer that question and help that person and let other people know that you've got expertise in that area. And you can obviously then link that to your own website. One of the great things about social networking, and in fact any online marketing, is linking, whether it's email marketing or social networking, is linking an article to your website. You may notice if you receive our emails, nearly all the emails I send don't actually have all the information on the email. They'll have what I call teaser copy. They'll have some information that I will then need you to go and click on, whether it's a video or a link to a website of ours, in order to find the actual information that you need. Now, why do I do that? Well, I want to drive as many people to our website as possible, because I might be providing some added value ideas for you, but I want to provide them on our website so that when you go there, you might also look at the other services and think, oh, wow, I never realised Steve provided these services. So, those ideas are really, really important. So make sure you consistently add information and make sure that information is of value to the people who are members of the site. Now, note information. I'm not talking about selling. I'm talking about adding value. If you try to sell, people will be turned off. They will not respond. There are obviously exceptions to that. For example, on eAcademy with the marketing section I mentioned a few moments ago, that that's absolutely fine. But make sure that the information is good quality, relevant, and is out there, and use it on all the social networking sites that it would be appropriate for. So the next thing you need to think about is to kit your relationships. What do I mean? KIT stands for keep in touch. You need to keep in touch with the people that you build relationships with. Just like in any networking. If I turn up at a networking event this evening and I meet someone, we have a great 15-minute conversation. If I then don't keep in touch, if I don't follow up, that relationship's going to die. If I have a friend that I don't speak to from 1 month to the next, that relationship, that friendship, will maybe not die, but it won't be as strong as it possibly could be. So we need to keep in touch. And dependent on the relationship, dependent on your business, you need to decide how often you're going to keep in touch with that person. Is that going to be on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, 6-monthly basis? In my experience, one of the biggest mistakes that most small businesses make is that they don't keep in touch with people. They're worried or frightened or apprehensive that by sending somebody an email is going to upset them in some way. Don't buy into that idea. Keep in touch with people. Regard everybody in your database as a valued friend. Everybody on your social networking as valued friends. How would you treat a valued friend? You'd keep in touch with them on a regular basis. Another thing to do is to think about asking questions. People love to give advice. They love to help. We're conditioned to love to help each other. As human beings, we like to help. If I ask somebody a question, they think, oh, wow, that's great. Steve really respects me. He's asking me for advice on something. So, ask questions on these sites. Does anybody know about X? Can anybody give me any ideas about Y? Does anybody know where I can find out this information? It's a great idea to ask questions of people, and people will help. We're conditioned that way. So, make sure you add content, make sure you keep consistently adding content, keeping in touch, and making sure that you constantly and never-endingly and consistently social network. Okay, last and by no means least, we're going to now talk about sales. One of the biggest opportunities, I think, for most businesses is to increase sales. Now, clearly, marketing is a key part of that. But it's no use getting hundreds of inquiries in if you don't convert them. So the question is, how do we convert them? How do we convert those inquiries into sales? So today I'm going to talk to you about content that makes you money. In advertising, you may be aware that there's a mnemonic called the AIDA formula, which stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. How do we create interest? How do we create desire? What do we do to get people to take action? These are the real keys, and these are keys in advertising, and they're also the key in selling. So you need to think about, how do you create attention? What do you do? What do you say? And the number one thing is the headline. There's an old saying in advertising that the headline is the advert for the advert, and it's the same again in sales. So the first thing you say on the telephone becomes really, really important. Now, when you speak to someone on the phone, you've got to realise, firstly, that the number one thing that you've got to do is to break their preoccupation. For example, I call up and I say, look, I'm calling, my name's Steve Mills, I'm from a company called Max Marketing, and we're running a sales training course a week on Tuesday, and we wondered whether you'd be interested in coming along, or whether you'd in fact like an in-house course. What are people going to say? They're going to say, well, often they say, well, I'm really sorry, but we've got no budget for that. We're too busy. We don't need any training. All our salespeople have been trained and we've got no need. So that question really produced a poor result, didn't it? And yeah, sure, if I make enough calls and I just happen to drop on the right person at the right time, then, I'll maybe get some business doing that, even though that script wasn't very good. It was what I call a standard script. It was what most people say, and it will produce what most telemarketing results produce, and that is what I call poor results. And if I get a 1% return on that script, make 100 calls, get one inquiry, then, I'd probably be doing well. So the question is, how can we do it better? What can we do? And I sat down and thought, right, if somebody's interested in sales training, and if I'm trying to sell somebody sales training, what is the most important question that I could immediately ask them? Firstly, I need to think about, who am I going to call? And as far as sales training is concerned, it tends to be the sales manager or the owner of the business. They're the ones who are really concerned about sales. And sales, generally is a massive area of underachievement for most businesses, because most business owners have never done any sales training. The amount of business owners that I speak to say, well, I'm not really a salesperson. I'm an IT guy, or I'm a solicitor, or I'm a garage mechanic. That is costing that company money, because they are salespeople. That is their role. In fact, I believe everybody is a salesperson. Even if they had no training, if they don't do any sales, if they don't proactively, your receptionist, when they pick up the phone, that is the start of that sales process. So if that receptionist has not ever had any training in sales, that could be hurting your business. So we need to make sure we're as effective as possible right across the business. So going back to what I was saying about my opening, I thought to myself, what is it that I can do? And why would someone want my training? Because there's a whole variety of training out there, isn't there? There's a whole variety of people can provide sales training. So why me? What's different about me? What could I do that would enable people to view my phone call as something that they A, want to receive, and B, more importantly, they want to find out a little bit more about? So I thought long and hard about this, and I thought, well, what I'm good at is actually helping people to make more money. So I changed my opening statement. Rather than telling them about the sales training that we're going to do, I tell them about a system that I've got. And it goes something like this. I'd say, hi, my name is Steve Mills. I'm calling from Max Marketing. The reason for my call is I've developed a system of helping businesses to increase the amount of sales that they accrue by 20 to 40%. Is that of interest to you? And if so, could I take 10 minutes of your time to explain further? Now, if you're a sales manager or a business owner, do you think that there's a slight chance that you might be interested in finding out more? Now, in my experience in using that over the last, I'm not sure how many years I've used it, that little sentence there, or that little phrase, gets me in the door. And that's really important. When you're phoning, you need to think about what is your version of that. Not what you're trying to sell them, but what is the result? What is the result that they can achieve? Is it an increase in sales? Is it a reduction in cost? Is it saving time? Is it saving money? Is it upgrading something? What's in it for them? This is really, really important. One thing I also think is important is that a lot of people, when they're on the sort of sales and marketing mentality, you hear lots of people talking about selling the benefits, not the actual product, but sell what the product will do for me. And when people do that, they make a massive mistake. They talk about all the advantages that I can get by buying your service. In actual fact, as human beings, and I think this goes back to sort of, cavemen days, we're geared to do two things. We are geared to move away from pain, and we're also geared to move towards pleasure. They're the two poles, pain and pleasure. Now, if you took a scale, I've got a scale here of 1 to 10, and pain is number 1 and pleasure is number 2. When you pick up that phone, your potential client is somewhere in the middle. They don't really know very much about you, and they probably in fact know nothing about you other than, someone, the receptionist has said, there's Steve Mills from Max Marketing on the phone. And so that would either conjure up a positive or a negative or a neutral feeling. What you say then is very, very important, because you're going to move them either towards pain, I'm really busy and I want to get rid of this guy, or pleasure, that actually this guy might be able to help me. But we also need to think importantly about the questions that we ask, because we move towards pleasure and away from pain. So my point here is, don't neglect what I call pain-inducing questions. So we're talking about loss. If you don't do this, what's it going to cost you? What are you going to lose? What are you going to feel like? Okay, so think about this really, really carefully. You need to, in my opinion, write down 10 questions, 10 points that you're going to cover in that sales call. Now, please don't get me wrong, you're not going to use all of them. You're going to test different approaches to get the best possible result. I hope that makes sense, because, whatever it is you're saying at the moment, if you're just winging it, if you're just making it up as you go along, then, sometimes you're going to get it right, sometimes you're not. And this, again, is a massive mistake that I think most businesses make. They pick up their phone without really having a clue what they're going to say. They attend that first meeting and they just make it up as they go along. They don't have a script, they don't have an agenda, they don't have any idea really about what's working and what's not. So we need to upgrade, we need to raise your game, you need to improve the effectiveness of people. Wherever you are now, you need to upgrade. If I asked you to rate yourself at the moment, or rate your team at the moment, 1 being we're absolutely awful at selling, we've got no clue, we don't have any system in place, we don't have any real answers to objections, we don't have any structure to it, but we get a few bits of business and it seems to sort of tick over. If you're up at a 3, 4 or a 5, you're what I call, average. You're okay, you do reasonably well, but there's no real structure to it. There's no real professionalism to it. If you're up at a 7 or an 8, you're in the top, 5-10%, but you could still do better. You could always raise the bar a little bit. So, what are you going to do? This is the question. This is the question that Raise Your Game is all about. What are you going to do to improve? Are you going to go out there and find, one of the best books in the world on selling by some leading expert? Are you going to attend a seminar? Are you going to come to one of my seminars? Who knows? But what are you going to do? You need to upgrade. You need a plan. You need to take action, and you need to take it now, and you need to take it consistently. Okay, that just about comes to the end of this month's Raise Your Game programme. I'd like to thank you for listening. I know I've given you, to be honest, a little bit of a hard time this month, and I've done that with, real good intent. I really want to push you. I really want to drive you. I really want to motivate you to take action. So think about what we've been talking about. Your niche market, what are you going to do? What could you do? If you don't have a niche market, what could it be if you've not already got one? Social networking. How are you going to take action? Make sure it's consistent. It's not just setting it up. It's a little bit like blogging. A lot of people set a blog up and then they don't touch it from one month to the next. We need to do this consistently. Think about your sales. What are you going to do? How are you going to improve? What are you going to do to take your business to the next level? Thanks ever so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you valued it. But most of all, I hope you use it. Thank you. Steve Mills, signing off.
There you go. I hope you enjoyed that. It's really refreshing for me to listen back to stuff that I, recorded several years ago and remember some of the ideas. I think sometimes we, go to seminars, maybe you've been to a seminar, you thought it was really good. It was a couple of years ago. How much of that do you actually remember? And the answer is probably nothing, but often very little. And So my message in that is that it's really important to keep learning really throughout your life, and I think even more important in the world of marketing right now, because what you learn today actually in 6 months will be obsolete. I remember reading recently that when a doctor qualifies, they go through medical school. I think that takes 7 years to qualify as a GP, as a doctor. That within 6 months of qualifying, most of their knowledge, their information is obsolete. The world's changed. There's new systems out there. There's new medicines. There's new practices. There's new legislation, and so on and so forth. And so as a doctor, it's very important to keep up to date. And, I don't know about you, but I hope my doctor does do that. And, he's not working in the past. And so it is in marketing, So, one great question, by the way, to ask any marketer who, you're thinking of working with, if you're thinking of, hiring somebody internally, or you're thinking of outsourcing it to a marketing company, talk to them about the training that they've had. Who taught them? When did they do their training? And if it's somebody who says, well, I did a marketing degree 10 years ago and I've not really done any training since then don't walk away from them, run away from them, because they're clearly not up to date and they've not got the level of marketing knowledge that you need right now. So that's about it. If you want to work with me, I do train myself. I don't train myself every year or every month or every week. I train myself every day. Right? I'm recording this on a Saturday morning. And when I've finished in the office, which is going to be in about, 20 minutes, something like that, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive from Portsmouth up to Basingstoke to see a very good friend of mine who's just got out of hospital, and hopefully cheer him up and spend a bit of time and, share some banter and so on and so forth. But on the way, I'm going to be listening in my car to Frank Kern. I know that because I'm going to be listening to his podcast, which I'm already part way through. And I'm going to be doing that for an hour on my way down. On my way up to Basingstoke, and another hour on my way back down. So that'll be 2 hours today of marketing training by one of the world's leading marketing experts. And do you know what? I do that every day. Every day, my trip from my home in Southsea to my office in Portsmouth, I call my car a university on wheels because I'm constantly and never-endingly learning in my car. And I also do that in the office as well. I get in the office at 7:30 every morning. 7:30 till 8 o'clock is training. So again, I'm online doing online workshops. I paid for one a little while ago by a guy called Jordan Belfort. You may not have heard of Jordan, but you'll probably know of him as the Wolf of Wall Street, made famous in the film about his life. He's a real top sales trainer now, arguably, certainly one of the best sales trainers in the world. And I spent £2,000, probably must be about a year ago now, on his straight line persuasion system, which is online training and DVD-based training as well. So, I do invest in myself. I strongly encourage you to do so. If you want to invest in me, that could be for us to do the work for you. You want to just outsource it and get us to do it, then by all means get in touch. If you want to find out more about my results program, which is the program, 9-month program, all about helping you to, I think, at least double your business. Obviously, if you're turning over 100 million, that might be a bit of a challenge for us. But certainly, if you're turn over 50 grand, 100 grand, and you want to get to 200, or perhaps you turn over 400,000 and you want to get to 1 million, or you turn over 1 million or 2 and you'd like to get to, 6 or 7, then that program's definitely for you. So get in touch. And to do so, the best thing to do is to go to our website, which is www.stevemills.co. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you again on my next podcast. Thank you.